thanks so much to Eden for the challenge this week. If you are like me and aren't necessarily the biggest sports fan, then maybe you felt a little bit intimidated by this challenge, but luckily the requirements were nice and clear, so hopefully we all made and managed to get the right fields. Okay, so if we start with the NBA, then for this one, the ranking field was the wins. The tiebreakers, it's all just about renaming, maybe doing a little bit of calculation. So tiebreaker 1 was just the games behind for the NBA. And then for the tiebreaker 2, we were looking at the conference record, and we can see that we've got the number of wins dash the number of losses, and so we only care about that number before the dash there. So we need to split up this field, this conference record field, and just take the first number basically, and then that becomes our tiebreaker 2. There we go. And then we can get rid of all the other fields so that we're just at this kind of cleaned up view. Now, we definitely notice that we have strings here, so we want to make those both be numeric before we move on to the next section. Otherwise, if we leave them as strings and we do our union, then it'll make all the rows of data string as well, which will mess up our ranks later on. So let's not do that. So then for the NFL, same but different because it's different fields that will now be our ranking field. This time it is the wins is our ranking field, and then for our tiebreakers we do need to do a little bit of calculations again. We need to work out the point differential, which is just the points for minus the points against, so that is our tiebreaker 1, and then our tiebreaker 2 is just the points for. And then all those other fields can be removed, and so we just have those 4 fields. The Premier League, it is the points field that is our ranking field, and the tiebreakers are just the wins and the goals scored. And again, we don't need any of the other fields there. And then the rugby as the final one, it is the points that is the ranking field, and then the I think it's the wins that is tiebreaker 1, it is, and the points differential again, which is the tiebreaker 2. Whew. So that's kind of almost the hardest bit, is getting everything lined up the way that we need it to, so that when we feed it into this union, we have them all working the way that we want them to. Although the team, in one of the inputs, it's called club. I think it's the Premier League, so we do just need to make sure that we merge these fields together as well. So that's the only difficulty in our union step. And then we're going to take that table names field so that we still know what sport we're looking at for each row. Particularly important if we see here that we've got 2 Newcastles, one from rugby, one from football or soccer, whatever you want to call it. So we just want to take off basically anything that's after that / in our table names field. So again, we're going to, in the next step, do a split based on that /, which gets us to this point here. So we've got the NBA, NFL, etc. and so forth, but we just don't want those results, the word results, to be in there as well. So we do a quick calculated field there too, just to replace that word results with nothing. Okay, so now that we've got everything together, we've got everything in one table, we can finally actually start doing these calculations that Eden is interested in. So we're going to work out for each of those teams what is their rank within their sport. So let's do that first of all. So we go to the ranking field and we go to create calculated field and rank. So then that brings up this interface. So we want to make sure we're grouping by the sport. So that for each sport that ranking is going to be 1 to something. And then we want to have our ranking field in descending order, our tiebreaker 1 in descending order, and our tiebreaker 2 in descending order as well. If you can't see everything, if it's all a bit squished, you can always rearrange and kind of expand this visual calculation editor as well. Cool, lovely. So we've got our rank within the sport. Now we can calculate that Z score. So we do need to do a couple of pre-calculations first. So we need the mean and the standard deviation. So for the mean, we need to make sure we're grouping by the sport. This is with a fixed level of detail calculation, so on that ranking field, we go to create calculated field and fixed LOD. And then we do our average of that ranking field for each sport. Similarly with the standard deviation, that fixed level of detail calculation, grouping by the sport, using the standard deviation, and then we can just write it into our calculation for the z-score. Nice and simple. The ranking field minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. And it's probably important to have those brackets on the top of our division calculation there, so that it kind of does that ranking field minus mean before it then divides by the standard deviation. Just a bit of syntax there for our calculations. Lovely. Now we're ready to calculate that sport-specific percentile rank. Rolls off the tongue. So we first of all need to know for each sport how many teams are there. So we can just do another LOD calculation. This time we're still grouping by our sports, but we're counting the distinct number of teams. And again, if you're having trouble seeing things, you can always rearrange these bits too. Just drag them to rearrange them. So then we write out the calculation as we see it in the challenge. I just kind of split it off across multiple rows because that helps me to kind of make sure that everything's in the right place. So 1 minus the rank within the sport divided by the number of teams. We can see our results range between 0 and 1, so good. We're on the right lines. We know that the percentile rank should be between 0 and 1, so that suggests that we're okay. And then our final calculation here is our cross-sport rank. And so for this one, we are again doing a rank. We are first of all going to the z-score. If I can find it on my screen, there it is. Going to our z-score, doing a calculator field, doing the rank. And then for the tie breaks, we want to add in again, so we haven't really mentioned this, but if you want to add in anything, you just press there, the add in, so adding in the sport-specific rank. So again, a high z-score suggests it's above the mean by greater distance. The percentile rank, the higher the percentile, the better in this case, the way that we're calculating it. So yeah, both these are descending as well. And then we can kind of see that the Premier League football teams are having the highest cross-sport rank there. And then it goes some NBA player, an NFL player, so on and so forth. So let's tidy up our data set before we output, because we've got a lot of fields that helped us to get to this calculation. So we just want to be keeping these ones here before we do that first output. And then maybe we want to compare the sports as wholes against one another. So we're going to group by the sports, and we're going to do the average cross-sport rank to see, where are they kind of falling on average. Is it just that the Premier League 2 teams that were there were kind of anomalies? They were not as good otherwise, like the rest of the teams. And then we can see that from this result here that, yeah, the Premier League has actually got the highest average rank, so maybe it wasn't actually that super duper of a sport. Cool, so we output that one too. And that is it for this challenge. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much again to Eden, and thanks very much for watching.